are going live right now, getting Julian on. As you know, every Wednesday we do some additional tips and advice on real estate, anything that helps you guys be more informed. Hi, Julian.
Hello, happy Wednesday, Ariana. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, it's a wonderful day. We got a little bit of overcast, with some rain over the last few days. I will take it all day, every day. Maybe not every day, but more days than
For sure. Let's see if this is connecting. There we go, I think. Let's just see. Let's just keep going.
not. Wonderful.
So, how was your week?
So the week has been busy so far. We're on the third week of interest rates kind of trending downward. So a lot of activity and consultations and educating home buyers as to what their options are and how to achieve their real estate goals in this market. So no complaints on my side. How about yours? How's your week been?
Oh, we're getting excited. We love rates dropping for sure. Just double checking, making sure if anybody else can qualify and the ones that we already have pre-qualified, right? Just to see if there's that little leeway of purchase power that allows us to go a little bit higher.
Yeah, opening a
But
few more doors. So.
it's been good, of course. Can't complain either.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be here again today with you. So we are 7 episodes in. They say 21 to 30 days make a habit, and I think that's what we've done and created here so far. So looking forward to diving into today's topic, which are, the 10 steps to take you from home buyer to homeowner. Once you're under contract, there's a lot of things that transpire between the time, again, that you sign your offer to the time that you sign your closing documents and get those jingling keys in your hand. So I'm excited to break that down and educate folks today what it looks like uh, between contract acceptance to your loan has been funded.
Right.
So a lot of that,
There's so many steps.
a lot of yeah, and I was going to say a lot of that kind of falls into your side of the fence as a real estate agent, a realtor. You are sort of the point guard, the ringleader, if you will, in terms of making sure things happen in a timely manner. Everybody, is doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it, and advising your buyer each step of the way. So, yeah, maybe help us understand, from your perspective as a real estate agent, what transpires from the time your offer's been accepted.
So I do like that ringleader title, right? But there
Yes.
are quite a bit of steps, right? That once we go under contract, that happen, and so as a buyer, I hold your hand, right? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to break down the steps. This is just generally speaking of how it works. The very first thing, once we go under contract, so once we have a meeting of the minds, buyer and seller agree to terms, and we finally go under contract. The very next step is I get to inform everybody involved. We talked last week about who are the key components to making a transaction successful,
Right.
and so that's the people that I inform, right? Or at least a couple of them. One would be the mortgage lender. I would have to let Julian and title company know, hey, we're under contract. What is next? Here are the documents, and everybody has a different timeline. Julian, you probably have timelines on your end that we don't know about. I have to keep certain timelines on my end, but then as well as title, right?
Right.
So once those are kind of set and scheduled, buyers out there, you don't have to worry about these timelines. This is just something that we do on our end. We take care of that for you. We leave the hard process for us. We'll do that, so it's as a great experience to you as we can possibly do it. But then we have to deposit earnest money. We were talking about it a little bit last week, and we've been talking throughout that earnest money to make sure that is completed within 24 hours from when the contract is accepted or as soon as possible. And this gets either deposited into the title company, or then there's different ways that we can have that money picked up from you
So
as well.
once again, what I know we talked about it last week, but for anybody that didn't watch last week, what is earnest money again?
So the earnest money is just buyers showing the seller good faith that you are very committed and interested in purchasing this property. That's
Got it. So it's like a
ultimately what
security
it is.
deposit.
Credited back to you once we go, I guess at closing, that money gets credited back to you, the buyer.
Okay, cool. So we go into contract. Now I have to pony up the earnest money deposit or the security deposit. What happens from there?
Okay, then the next step would be the inspection period starts. So at this point, we have already discussed when we're strategizing for the offer, you're going to know how many days we've negotiated for inspection period. And just a little side note on that, inspection period starts the next day that we fall under contract. So if today both meetings of the mind happen and we are officially under contract, then day one starts tomorrow. That would be tomorrow. So if it's 10 days, it's very important that you understand it's calendar days. It's not business days. So 10 days in a row, whatever was negotiated. So that's where we got. So another note on that is buyers. Please pay attention to that buyer advisory that I send you. It has very important and crucial information for you to do your due diligence. This will help you navigate and research anything that you deem important for you. It's not just acknowledging, it's just really go through it, right? I can only help you with so much, but I give you this information for a reason. Make sure you look through it.
That's a good call out. We all sign a lot of terms and conditions, right? And scroll to the bottom and say that we acknowledge and we read and understand it. But a good real estate agent is going to make sure that they point out the key factors, maybe give you some cliff notes. But at the end of the day, as a buyer, it is your duty to make sure you understand what you are signing. So that's a good call out.
For sure. Then after that, once the inspection period is over, so it can be over in two ways, right? You either wait out the amount of time or the length of time negotiated. Let's just take, for instance, the 10-day example. So you can wait until that 10th day and then submit any repairs after you're completed all your inspections. Or if you're done with your inspections, because maybe it was a clean home, and by clean home, I mean there wasn't much needed or much to investigate and you're satisfied with your findings, we can cut the inspection period short. Now, what happens when you cut the inspection period short? You can't come back and say, oh, I forgot to check on X, Y, or Z. Then you're cutting it short. And that's, you can do that, but I just really want to make sure that you understand the right that you're giving up, right? And I kind of talk with my buyers about this just so they know, but then inspection period is completed. So at this point, we're again strategizing and negotiating which repairs we want completed in order to move forward, if there are any, right?
So when you say inspection period is completed, you've completed the inspection, you've reviewed the inspection report together, and have said, hey, this looks pretty clean. I don't, we're good to go. Or at that point is when you maybe try to negotiate on like repairs. Like, can you tell me what that actually means?
Right. So once we've done all the inspections, then the buyer and I kind of sit down and we discuss, okay, what is of importance to you, right? Because all the homes, they're not new, they're all going to have quite a bit of issues, some more, others, less. Even new construction has it. We just have to make sure that you're okay with the findings. And out of the findings, we try to focus on bigger ticket items, things that will be, pricier to repair or to replace. And at that point, I kind of put it down all in a document requesting what you kind of as a buyer has shown me that is of interest for you for the seller to fix. And then I kind of negotiate back with the listing agent to say, okay, my buyers are willing to move forward if these things are taken care of. Now, sometimes there could be credits negotiated instead of the repairs. So these credits, the intent is to, it would be in lieu of repairs, meaning so you have that money so you can repair once it becomes your home with whomever you choose.
Got it. And to kind of piggyback off that, I know we kind of maybe go down a rabbit hole here with that, but when might be appropriate to negotiate on price or concessions or actual repairs?
So there's different steps on the whole transaction to negotiate, right? Right at the beginning, we're negotiating and strategizing what we're presenting as the offer itself, right? And that's when we're discussing, the closing terms, times of acceptance, the price, anything that has to do as far as inspection period, right? So all that is what we're negotiating. Once we're under contract and we've negotiated all this, then we move on to inspection. When we're completed with inspection, then we're going to negotiate on repairs,
Gotcha.
right? So you have two options there, repairs or credits from the seller coming to the buyer. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to give you money right there and then. This is all towards the end, right? All the monies get allocated appropriately, but that's another negotiation. So then getting into negotiations, the next step would be appraisal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because once I give Julian the green light, the thumbs up that we're past inspection period, we've come to an agreement, then I tell him to order the appraisal. And that's that his doing. He would get the appraisal done. Appraiser shows up, but let's just say, there's two ways this can go. Either it appraises or it doesn't for the purchase price or for the price offer. If it doesn't appraise, we renegotiate. So that's another negotiation point, right? But if it does appraise, then everything just keeps moving along, smoothing.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of one point that I want to bring up is when you work with a team that we have that communication that there's sometimes where buyers will go under contract, they'll complete an inspection, and based on that inspection, cancel, or depending on if the appraisal comes in low, end up canceling if we can't come to an agreement. And our whole job is to try to mitigate your expenses, so you're not paying for an appraisal on a home you're not actually buying. And so I think we'll touch a little bit more on that later in the process, but I kind of wanted to drop that nugget there that, again, with the home buying process, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of hands in the pot. And it really requires a team that's connected and has that synergy to make sure that, it goes smoothly and easily as possibly can be.
Because, good thing that you mentioned that, because if we were talking a few months back when everybody was going crazy, we were ordering appraisals, ahead of time. And, it really also depends on the market. But nonetheless, you're informed of every step, right? Because we need your approval. We need, at the end of the day, when the appraisal is ordered, well, guess what? Julia's going to call you and say, hey, I need you to pay for it. So then, that's when you just make payment on the appraisal. But in this current market, yes, we want to wait for the repairs to be negotiated if there's any before we order the appraisal. We don't want you spending money where it's not needed, or until we know that we're moving forward.
Market conditions do take a great impact onto the timing of all of this. So, okay, so great. So we've gotten past the inspection, we've ordered the appraisal, we've gotten the appraisal report back. We're at value or better, hopefully, right? What's next after that?
I sure hope so, right? Well, the next step.
That's a good point, though. Like in this market, I haven't seen too many low appraisals. We're still, kind of appraisals look at a 6 month, 6 month look back. And so, we're looking at homes that closed in, a May through October timeframe. So that's something that we might have to turn up a little bit later. But for the time being, in this scenario, we've appraised and we're moving forward.
Well, one thing that we do want to just kind of throw it out there is also it depends if the listing agent is doing their jobs right, because they are a key factor on helping their sellers prove the value of their home,
Yeah,
because they need to show the appraiser that the home is worth what they say it's worth. And how do they come to that finding? Not everybody does it though. So that's something extremely important. You have to be prepared as a listing agent representing a seller, because otherwise then I come with my buyer, and for me it benefits me if it doesn't appraise, because then
right.
I have to renegotiate a lower price point. And if not, then my buyer can walk away. It's not technically what we want, and we're trying to really everybody pull and work towards the same goal. But then I guess it would be safe to say one more time, not all real estate agents, not all lenders, title companies, and whatnot are the same. It matters who you work with, right? So
Yeah, 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 100%.
I
Couldn't
can't
agree
stress it
more.
enough.
No, no, it's really true until you see some of the things that go on in the market. So yeah, having a experienced and knowledgeable professional team that can guide you through these steps, because as we've already uncovered, there's a lot of moving pieces, and um, you need a strong team on your side. So
That is for sure. So all this is done, what's next? We do a final
well,
walkthrough.
yeah, lender's gonna send your coordinate with the title company to send your final closing documents, and we'll maybe go into further detail on what that looks like and sounds like in another future episode. But one of the key factors before closing is that you do your final walkthrough. For what reason?
Walkthrough, it's really the biggest thing. Well, there's two factors into this. One, we have to make sure that the home is in the same condition as we originally saw it the first time.
Right.
And the second one would be if there were any repairs negotiated, that's when we go to check and make sure that they were completed satisfactorily to in a workmanship like manner, right? Because otherwise then we kind of have to go back to the seller or and the listing agent and say we need this redone, right?
Yeah.
That's the way of protecting you, the buyer, before we close, to move forward, to really get those keys to your future home.
Yeah.
We really need to make sure. So those are the two main things on why we do a final walkthrough, because then you have to sign a document saying that you did do it, and that you agreed that it's in the same condition, or that you approve of the property, correct?
Right. Yeah. You want to make sure that you've done that final walkthrough in the home. Sometimes there are. Sorry, my pod here's acting up, but um, sometimes the home is occupied, or sometimes it's not occupied, and you want to make sure that again it's in the same condition that it was when you negotiated the contract, or like you said, when the repairs were made, and make sure that they're quality work and not just the homeowner putting a little lipstick on the home and calling it a repair. So
So then after we're past that, then, again, now we get the thumbs up from our buyers, then that's when we are good to go and move forward onto the closing table. And closing table means happy days.
yes, everybody's looking forward to it, asking when it's going to happen, and there's quite a few things that happen on signing day to make it all happen, and there's a pecking order, so to speak. But yeah, signing day is typically the day that you get the keys to the home. So after you've signed your loan documents, then the title company is going to send them over to me, the lender. We'll review them, make sure we've got all the right signatures, they're signed the right way, everything's dated, and things of that nature. And once that happens, then we send them the funds for your loan. They send your documents, your deed of trust, and a few other documents to tie to the county to record on the public record. And it takes a few hours for the county to process those records. But usually, if you're signing in the morning or late morning, you'll get the keys that day, and christen your new home.
We typically want to do that the same day. So that's why everybody is rushing sometimes. So now here's another thing though. There's the different mortgage companies, everybody has their rules, regulations, everybody does it a little bit different. Some people sign ahead of time. Sometimes you could potentially be signing the same day, sign, fund, and record the same day. But ultimately, we're trying to get you those keys to your new home. So that's why we say typically it's in a day, right? So once the recording of the property to the new ownership goes through on the county, then title let us know, and that's when I get to make that happy call to the buyers and now arrange for a meeting at the property so I can give them their new keys.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that transpire on signing day. However, you're not walking into the appointment blind. As a lender, we're getting our closing package to the title company, at least 2 to 3 days prior to you signing. You're going to see the final figures 3 days before signing your loan documents. So it's more of a kind of a refresher, if you will, from your initial or final loan consultation with me as I review the numbers with you. And again, it's more of a formality, but it all happens. It's kind of like this whole process is like drinking from a fire hose or from a fire hydrant. It's a lot coming at you all at the same time, but all of this to say that a lot of the heavy lifting is done in the first half of the transaction, in the first week to 2 weeks of the transaction, and then it gets a little bit silent as everybody starts to prepare for landing. Is kind of the way I tell a lot of buyers is you and I are great pilot and attendants, and if you ever seen a flight attendant nervous or a pilot sound nervous when he's on the intercom, then I'd probably be a little bit nervous too. But as great pilots and attendants, we understand the weather conditions and what's going to happen that may cause some turbulence and let you know what to expect along your ride. But at the end of the day, 99% of our flights get to their final destination on time without any hitches. And but you'll never know what goes on in the cockpit because we are cool, calm, and collected. So um, again, we just kind of wanted to break down what transpires in a real estate transaction, but at the end of the day, let you know that it matters who you work with because it'll determine how bumpy your ride will be. Because there are a lot of hands in the pot and timelines and objectives to meet each step of the way.
For sure, for sure. So I think if we go into a little bit of a Q&A that we, you know, usually get.
Yeah. So there was a question here. So at what point can I cancel a contract, and at what point am I under contract? So I think we kind of answered the B part of your question. Once you're under contract, which is when we have that meeting of the minds, like you mentioned. But at what point can we cancel the contract if and for what reasons can we cancel the contract?
So it is a great question, right? So to answer both questions again, the most important part, the under contract part, the meeting of the minds, meaning seller and buyer sign the contract and agree to the terms being offered. That means that, and both parties have received the document itself signed by the other party. That means we're under contract, and I'm going to let you know we're officially under contract, right? Because sometimes we're going back and forth with multiple signatures.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then, can you cancel? Yes. The biggest part or the biggest portion or where we have an option to cancel is going to be during inspection period, because something that you found relevant to you, we can cancel. And by canceling also on the inspection period, you are the earnest deposit that you had given to title, you can't you are you get that money refunded to you. So exactly. So then that's one way.
Okay.
The other way where you can cancel the contract If there's not a meeting of the minds on the appraisal, if the appraisal comes lower and seller and buyer can't come to an agreement on either dropping the price or, meeting somewhere in the middle, then you can cancel. But if the home appraises, you cannot cancel without risking your earnest money deposited, right? But the simplest way is during inspection period. There's other variables, but we'll just leave
Gotcha.
it easy.
So there's a lot of variables there, but yeah, to make it simple, once you've agreed on property condition and any repairs, or if the appraisal comes in lower, those are kind of your outs as a buyer, if you will.
Of course, yes.
Cool. Okay.
One of the
The other
questions,
question that we
yeah,
get
one of the
during this process. So go ahead and maybe speak to that, if you will.
like to be very clear with the buyers that there are no fees originally when you start working with us, right? The only fees throughout the transaction, aside from the closing table, are going to be inspection and appraisal. Any inspections you do during once you're under contract, then it's going to come out of your pocket, and also the appraisal. That's about it. Everything else kind of falls down the line to the closing table.
Right. So the way I get the question a lot myself as well as a lender, so there's let's talk about out of pocket expenses. So there's going to be your earnest money, which is negotiable per the contract, right? So you kind of depend on that, and Ariana or your real estate agent will let you know what's the appropriate amount to offer for earnest money. In my experience, you correct me if I'm wrong because I'm a lender, not an agent, but it's $2, $3, $4,000. Again, it depends on the price of the home you're looking to, but it's a percentage of it. And you have your earnest money, you have your home inspection, which again that also will vary depending on the extras that you put onto it in terms of what's most important to you, areas of importance, and then you have your appraisal, which also will vary depending on the lender, but typically from an appraisal standpoint, it's going to be 500 to 700, depending on different loan factors.
Right. So one of the things on the inspections is or I should go back a little bit. On the earnest money, there's not a set rule. Typically, what we see is about 1% of the purchase price. Again, it depends on the market, right? But typically, that can be negotiated. Now, the other fee on the inspection, if we're just talking about general inspection, it could range about same thing between 500 and 700. If we're, the key factors to determine the fees are going to be, what kind of inspections you're doing. But I'm just talking general inspection that has to do with the square footage and the age of the home.
Okay.
Right? If there's a pool and a spa, and if they're doing a termite inspection, which most times here in Arizona, we do want to do a termite inspection anyhow.
Right.
But, just generally speaking, so you have an idea of what those costs are.
Yeah, those are add-ons to the house, basically, right? So,
right.
So we want to get somebody specialized in those areas to make sure it's working in proper condition, and if not, we negotiate on it. So,
correct.
Okay, so 500 to 700 for the inspection, 500 to 700 for the appraisal. General rule of thumb on an earnest money is 1% of the sales price. So you can do the math there, but we're probably looking at 3 to 5. Again, a lot of these things, the earnest money definitely gets credited back to you at closing, as well as the appraisal. So these things are factored into your total cash due at closing. But I feel like I triggered something there, so go ahead and say it.
Yes, you did. It's like, I need to talk. Just something to keep in mind, guys, because the earnest money can be reimbursed if you cancel the contract. But once we've done inspections that you paid for, and if you've gotten all the way to appraisal, Those don't get reimbursed. It's the money that you've already spent. But I still would much rather you as a buyer spend that money and investigate anything that needs to happen than not spend it, right? So,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that is not
It's kind of
reimbursed,
like
just
getting married.
FYI.
You got cold food at the altar. Nobody's gonna pay you back for all the receptions and wedding halls that you paid for. So that's the way we kind of talk, at least on my side. Um, so there you have it. I think that was. Oh yeah, the last question was. No, I think we got it. When is the final walkthrough performed? Um, again, that's a day or so before closing, right?
Right. So it depends. If there were repairs negotiated, we want to take at least, like 3-4 days prior to closing, because if they weren't done to our satisfaction, then we have time to have the seller repair them or complete the repair appropriately. And if there were no repairs negotiated, then technically a day before, just so we make sure that the house doesn't burn down.
Yeah, right. That's important, right? Okay, cool. So I think that clears the questions in the queue. Great session here today. I think we covered a lot. Again, there's a lot of moving pieces in a real estate transaction, and the point guard and the ringleader will help you navigate each step of the way, so you don't step on any landmines, and you understand what's going on at each step, and that somebody is on your side and got your back to uh, make that path from home buyer to homeowner a simple as can be and smooth as ride as can be.
Precisely. Well, it's always a great honor joining, or doing this live stream with you, Julian, and sharing with all of our followers this great information. Like you said, it has been amazing sharing 7 episodes so far. It doesn't seem like like
Yeah,
that many, but sometimes it does.
yeah. At the same time, right? It's long and short, but we'll give you the skinny and the long as we go through this. And as always, if there's anything you want to learn about, let us know. Send a DM or drop a comment on either one of our pages, and we'd be glad to get that queued up. Make sure we answer the questions. We're here for the people, and always want to educate and make sure that we're giving value. So, um, to all those that tuned in, we appreciate you tuning in and your support. And we'll be back same time, same place next week, and give you more knowledge and details in terms of how to become a successful homeowner.
For sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Down below, we're going to have our information. You can reach out. And remember, hablamos español. So if you need anything, just reach out. Until next week.
See ya. Take care.
Bye. You too.